Who That Nation, what's going on? It's your boy Ace Boogie, joined by my co-host Zim. We still don't have a title for our podcast. We need your help. We're definitely going to touch on that in more details. But Zim, let the people know what's going on.
How you guys doing out there tonight? I'm so glad to be with you guys. I'm going through so much craziness in my life. I'm currently moving. Somebody hit my truck on Friday. So it's good to be able to relax and talk Bengals with you guys that I love the most. If you don't know and you guys haven't seen me or anything like that, you can follow me on Instagram, Zim_Hude. You can also check me out on Twitter at just ZimHude with no spaces or whatever. Ace, tell the people where can they find you at?
You can find me here on YouTube on my New Stripe City channel. You can find me on Twitter at New Stripe City, Instagram on at New Stripe City. So you can find me on all platforms.
Okay, and you kind of got into it a little bit. Our guy, our man, Rob Bomber, drew us up something very, very special that I'm really, really happy about. He drew us like our logo that I'm 100% with. I love it. I look crazy. I look a little old, but I still love it. And I appreciate the fact he took the time out to do it for us. So shout out to Rob Bomber to start off the show. But with that said, me and Ace Boogie have a special contest for you all where we're going to be able to give you a good prize that I keep some stuff on the side all the time in case we just need to give you a prize. But we need a name for the show that you guys think. Me and Ace Boogie already have a name that we're already sitting on right now. But I told my man that I think the people have to have some type of input on this, and I think that they're going to come up with something really, really great. And even if we don't use it for the show, we might use it for something else. We might use it for maybe a YouTube, a new channel that I start up, or maybe a new web page or something like that. But I want the people to be able to decide what they think is a cool name for us. I want you to tell everybody, if you're in here, tell everybody that you know to come on in here right now on YouTube, because in the comments we're going to be watching different. I'm going to go over the comments throughout, and I'm going to be kind of writing down the ones that I like the most, and writing down your name too. So I do have like legit prizes. Anybody that follows my page on Instagram can vouch for me. They can go back and go look. Like, we absolutely pay out these prizes. So I'm not joking. It's absolutely going to be Bengals gear. So if you ain't a Bengals fan, then this ain't for you.
Right, like Zim said, make sure that you're following us. We're gonna try to come to you guys on Mondays and possibly Thursdays. So get used to being here at 8:30. That's when we'll try to get this thing going weekly. We'll try to get to you guys twice weekly. We'll talk about everything from Bengal stuff to personal life stuff to anything that might be happening in the NBA. So with that said, on the last episode, I kind of touched on my side of the fantasy projections. So I kind of want to give Zim the floor, since he wasn't able to be here on the last show, to kind of give his take on where he sees the Bengals from a fantasy perspective.
Okay, so thank you for getting me into that. If you haven't checked them out, please go check out on the same YouTube channel Ace's last episode, where he kind of touches on some of those things. I was really just going to go through. We're going to have some time when we get closer to most people draft dates in mid-August. I got a date of like August 20th or something. Most people around that same time. But I just want to go over what I think people, these are the guys that we're going to be looking at from the Bengals perspective. So a lot of people have been asking me, when should I draft? Starting off with Joe Mixon first, and AJ Green is always asked. So depending on what type of league you're in, I would say that Joe Mixon is absolutely a first round pick, period. Because I have seen that some people feel like if you have a late first or something, you could catch the snake or something like that and maybe get him. I did 4 or 5 mocks. I did 4 mocks. And in those 4 mocks, Joe Mixon never made it past 11. So if you are drafting Joe Mixon, or you're thinking about drafting Joe Mixon, you got the 6 or 7 pick, I wouldn't run from him at that point. Because think about this. I'm going to pull this up for you. And Ace, you could tell me what you think about that while I pull that up. Like, what do you think about Joe Mixon? What's a fair spot for him to get drafted at in your book?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, especially when you look at the Melvin Gordon situation, where he's facing a situation where he could end up being this year's Le'Veon Bell, sitting out the season. Especially today, the latest report said that the Chargers are not willing to budge on giving him a new deal. They're willing to stand put. That means that they would have to look for a trade partner, but it seems like they're entrenched with what they want to do. So as a result of that, that actually pushes Joe Mixon up to, like you said, that 11 range, but possibly even higher than that. He could go from 8 to 10. If there's a situation, I was listening to a podcast where they did a live mock draft, and they were definitely faced with the situation of all of the running backs going within, I think, the first six picks. And the
Yeah.
guy on the board had Melvin Gordon, he had Dalvin Cook, and he had Joe Mixon. Me, I'm taking Joe Mixon. Dalvin Cook is another
Now,
guy
do
that
you
you can
feel like
take.
you're doing that because you're a homer, or you feel like that's legit? Because
No, I
we talked about this on some episodes. There's it's a lot of footballs to go around.
right.
It's
I
a lot of
agree.
guys.
I agree. I spent some time in Tallahassee, where I watched FSU, and I was a huge Dalvin Cook fan. Actually, at one point on my channel, I actually wanted him ahead of Joe Mixon. But one thing that I will say is Dalvin Cook, as talented as he is, he's very injury prone. And the past couple of seasons, he's kind of gotten hurt. He's a great talent. He's an immense talent. But one thing that I kind of take into account is how injury prone is a guy like Joe Mixon. He's rarely going to miss any games. I don't really have to worry about him in that perspective. So I would say that I would go with Joe Mixon solely because of that. Just because I feel like Joe Mixon has a better chance of lasting the entire season. I saw a guy that picked Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon last year, and once he lost Dalvin Cook, his team wasn't the same. And
Mm.
so, depending on if you do grab a guy like Dalvin Cook, I would recommend that you get his handcuff. But I think at that point, I would feel comfortable making the selection of Joe Mixon, especially with Melvin Gordon on the board. You're not knowing exactly what's going on there. But Zim, I'll get it back to you on your Joe Mixon synopsis.
Okay, now it's funny you mentioned Dalvin Cook. So last year, I think I might have drafted Dalvin Cook in the late rounds because he was coming off the injury. I'm not sure, but in Zim Huday's mock, I got Dalvin Cook at the number 17 spot. I have him my running back number 11. So you guys can tell me what you think. My man Ryan McKeon said that Dalvin is a bum, but this is Zim's top. This is how I get to Joe Mixon at the sweet spot at 11. Now, Melvin Gordon is gonna push him up to 10 because I wrote this list probably like 4 days ago. My number one running back is Saquon Barkley. Number two is Ezekiel Elliott. Number three, Christian McCaffrey. Number four, Alvin Kamara. Number five, this is a surprise to people. I just really think he's going to benefit from Kyler, and that's David Johnson. I just really think he's going to return to form. I had Melvin Gordon and Mixon in these guys in the same spot. If you see any of these guys in the same spot, pull the trigger. Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner. And I know y'all hate that, but they're gonna give him the rock. I wouldn't dare put him above Mixon. I still got Mixon above him. I think Todd Gurley's gonna take a step back. I think Nick Chubb's gonna take a step back. And then after that, you got Fournette, Damian Williams, people like that. So I wouldn't worry about it.
I hate Fournette. Sorry, I hate Fournette. Do not pick Fournette.
From a fantasy standpoint, he doesn't really make sense at all.
He never plays. Like I've literally had him. Like when he plays, he's good. He can get you 20, but he'll miss like 5 or 6 games, and then you'll get pissed off because they don't have T.J. Yeldon anymore. But T.J. Yeldon will come in and get 28.
Yeah, and he's not going to get receptions, and that's the number one. That's the number one thing for me. Like he's not going to get receptions. The reason why I'm surprising people a little bit with David Johnson because they're like, man, he's coming off an injury. I just think the threat of Kyler Murray and different things like that. And then from what I'm hearing from reports, David Johnson is looking really good right now. So that's in years past, I've never been a David Johnson fantasy guy. But this year, I got a little bit of a feeling from him. The next guy we need to go into for the Bengals, of course, is A.J. Green. Now, my list is – I wasn't even going to do it like that, but since we're in here, I know people want to talk about this a little bit. Somebody said James Conner is so overrated. I agree. But I just think the amount of touches are going to be there for him, and he's going to get a lot.
Zim, I gotta ask you one question. Would you rather pick Todd Gurley or Joe Mixon?
Mixon. I said, look, I got Gurley. I think Gurley's going to take a step back. I think they learned a lot from last year. You're going to see his workload get cut down a little bit. They brought in another running back out there too, I think too. So yeah, I mean, Joe. This is the other thing with Joe Mixon. It's a like think about this, people. There's a reason why we drafted 2 new running backs, and you still got Gio. Like they're not trying to like kill this guy and run him down for some fantasy points. When I draft fantasy, I'm looking for teams that don't have much talent, like the Jets, and I couldn't see myself drafting Le'Veon Bell. But if I'm there in the late rounds, like in my fantasy draft, I'm number 8. If Mixon and people like that are gone and Le'Veon Bell is there, that's somebody I would like because he doesn't have a lot of miles on the tires from last year at all. He's coming in fresh. He's on a bad team. Running backs that play on bad teams don't always get a lot of touchdowns, but they damn sure get a lot of touches. And James Conner, the reason why I just mentioned him, because he's right on that outside, like this from 8 to like 12, there's like you could pick any one of those guys. And I just feel like Mixon is way more talented than all those guys. But the one thing that's against Mixon that a lot of these guys don't have is so many weapons around them that can get touches. And if you follow the Rams last year, I mean, it ranges. I mean, people don't talk about Robert Woods that much, but Robert Woods is a legit fantasy like killer. But when Cooper Kupp comes back, that's, you know what I'm saying? It's a domino effect. All these guys like start to take away different touches and stuff. So me personally, I look for guys like even last year when I think it was like week 2 or something like that. I went and grabbed Tyler Boyd off there because we were looking good early, but then when Eifert got hurt and some other people like that, I went in and grabbed them really quick. The draft I'm in, you have like $100 for a whole entire year, and then you can put in waiver claims throughout the year or whatever. Early on, think about early on last year, people weren't thinking about Tyler Boyd, but I'm thinking like if this continues what I'm seeing in trend when we got close to that Steelers game, bad team, lots of touches, lots of opportunities. And I'm not saying we were a bad team at that point, but the writing was kind of on the wall. So I don't. It's kind of like a fantasy is almost like a feeling too, because sometimes you're gonna play people that you're not even thinking are really gonna go off on a certain defense, and it works out for you. Let me get into AJ Green now. People ask me where's AJ Green going to be drafted. I have AJ Green as my number 9 wide receiver to get drafted this year. Now, and I say that though, if I saw AJ Green and what that would do, that would put him at the end of the second, maybe third in most drafts. I'm sorry, in the mid-second to late second and early third in some drafts. And that's AJ Green. What do you feel about that?
That's one of the things that I was gonna kind of ask you about is are Bengals fans, are we overrating on AJ Green or are fantasy players underrating him? And I think that they're underrating him. I think the type of guy that you're going to get, I think his floor is a high wide receiver too. I think wide receiver 1 is the production that you get from AJ Green, and I think he's one of the most consistent players in fantasy, no matter what changes around him, whether it's Mo Sanu, whether it's Marvin Jones, whether it's John Ross and Tyler Boyd. I think he's still going to be that guy that can at least get you possibly 10 touchdowns. Now, depending on what kind of league you're in, whether you're in a half PPR, that can sway some things. But one thing that gives him value is he's a receiver that's going to score touchdowns. And if you play in a standard league, that's extremely valuable. So if he's there in the second round, I'm definitely taking him. I think I've kind of developed a reputation in my leagues that if AJ is on the board, I'm taking him.
All right, look, I did 4 mocks. AJ Green came out around the 35 position, so you got to think that's third round, right?
That's crazy.
I'm saying I would take him in a second, so absolutely, I'm grabbing him if I see him. But the reason why he is at my number 9, number 10 area is because of this. DeAndre Hopkins is your first. Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham Jr. absolutely is going to go off with the Browns, whether y'all like it or not. He's going to go off. Like that is not some fandom type stuff. I am an AJ Green fan, but he is going to go off for the Browns. I'm telling you that now. Only thing that can stop him this year is injuries, bro. Odell Beckham, that's my number 3. Number 4 is always Julio because the touchdowns and the targets are always going to be there. They always make plays for him. After that, I'm sorry, I had that mixed around. Michael Thomas right before Julio. Then the next one, you guys are gonna hate me. He's now their number one wide receiver, but Juju. I don't see the touchdowns matching up with AJ Green, but the receptions, they're absolutely going to come close to 100, I'm sure. Then you got Tyreek Hill, Antonio Brown, and then AJ Green and Mike Evans. I got like at the same tier. T.Y. Hilton right after that, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen right after that. But AJ Green in that ballpark. I don't know if y'all think that, like, if you're new to following me or whatever, I am probably the biggest AJ Green fan you'll ever meet. But from a fantasy perspective or whatever, those are the 8 guys that I have in front of them. Y'all tell me how stupid I sound in the comments if you want. That's not a problem with me. But that the reason why it's just the common theme. Most of these teams that I'm naming don't have a Tyler Boyd or a Tyler Eifert or Joe Mixon all on the same team. Like it really hurts the production standpoint. And then when one of those guys go down, you don't have an elite quarterback that can make sure that this guy gets the ball in an elite offensive line to protect so that he can. It's a domino effect. See, the difference with the Steelers is I feel like I'm talking about the Steelers too much, but the difference with them is when somebody goes down and Juju's still there, Ben's still going to have all the time to improvise with that line. And Juju's always going to be they're going to always make sure they get him. It's something within the Bengals organization where the big players are not emphasized at big times. And I don't know if that can just change in 1 year with just a coach. It's something underneath all of this stuff that I just never really get in the biggest games at the biggest moments when it's time for the players to get it. What do you get? Like, remember what was that on the third down? They throw the pass to Auden Tate. They do the other one where they throw that pass to Erickson on. Like, it's these guys that aren't your main players that they try to go to at these big moments, and it just doesn't work out. And then in the biggest moments, I can remember more often than not, I hate to say it, AJ kind of not being open, or it hurts to me to this day, the fumbles within the at the 20-yard line or whatever, the Steelers game. You can kind of remember some of his memorable drops because he doesn't drop it that much. And so, his bad plays stick out more than his good sometimes because we don't have the big time wins to coincide with it. Next, let me just go through the rest of these real quick. Tyler Boyd, I have around the 60 mark, so I'm not really good with math. Y'all tell me, I think that's 4th round. After that, somebody asked me when would Dalton be available or whatever. I probably wouldn't even. This is a great year to pick up Dalton, and you could get him late. And from a quarterback's perspective, I generally just go with a guy that's pretty solid that I know is going to start every week. That's got a lot of weapons around him. And Andy Dalton, this is probably 1 year. He will be my second quarterback, but I got him at the 150 spot. And the reason why is because I know y'all want to talk about Dalton a little bit. The quarterbacks that are before him, I got a bunch of guys. But, I mean, you got Pat Mahomes, got Andrew Luck. I think he's going to have a big year. Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, all those guys. Andy Dalton doesn't come in points-wise until, like, I don't even know what round that will put him. I guess that's the 9th round or something.
They've got Andy Dalton pretty far. I think it's like depending on if you're in a 10-team or 14. I think in 14-team leagues he's going in like the 15th round, which is I think is a decent bargain just because.
Yeah, that's a great bargain. I would be all over it. That because people got Lamar ahead of him. Most mocks have Lamar coming off, Kirk Cousins, Mitch Trubisky, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, and Sam Darnold, all coming off before him. Dak Prescott, Jameis Winston, all these quarterbacks going off in front of all those guys I just named. I cannot see Dalton like underperforming with the people that are around him. The line is a problem, but the people that are around him and in the new system, I don't know. But I'm gonna tell you this though, Andy does not go over 225 a week. And for the whole night, that's not going to change. I don't think people. I think the amount of production is like for people that thinking that Andy's gonna just start throwing. We talked about this I think on our first episode. Is people that thinking that Andy's just gonna skyrocket and be throwing 300 a game, 4,000, whatever. That's not happening. I think you might see a slight spike. Andy Dalton is good for 225 yards a game, right? I think you might see him at like the 250 mark. He's good for a good 12 to 14, 15 points on a weekly basis, depending on what type of league you're in. That's where I got him at.
Hey, Jay Maya, see you in the chat, bro. Appreciate you, man. Jay Maya, huge shout out to him. Obviously, since I live in Florida, I'm not able to make it to the training camps. This man did me a solid, I think, about 2 years ago. Got me all of the autographs and everything. Got me a customized flag and everything, bro. Tyler
Whoa.
Boyd's autograph,
Whoa.
Vontae. Yeah, man. So I see you in the chat, bro. Just wanted to say a huge shout out to you.
Hey, that's
Um,
big time.
he said he got me this training camp, bro. You already know. Hit me on Twitter. We can definitely get some things together. Zim possibly is going to be in the building one of the training camps. Maybe y'all can link up. We'll get some
If you
reporting.
guys are going to be at training camp August 2nd and August 3rd, which is Family Day, y'all can probably check me out there. Unless something crazy happens in my life. That's what you probably, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Right, and I will be in the building. Hopefully, God allows me to still be here during that time. But I will be in the building for the San Francisco game. It's time for me to return to PBS. It's been way too long. Like my first game in PBS was actually Corey Dillon's 278-yard game where he broke the record. I've been a couple of times after that. A Seahawks game when Sean Alexander was still playing. And of course, since I've been in Florida, I've seen the Bengals down here and up through Atlanta. But it's time to come back to PBS. So I will be there week 2 against the 49ers for the home opener. But I know that we talked a lot about fantasies. And did you want to keep talking about it? Did you want to touch on some other players, or did you want to talk about what's going on this week with training camp and what me and you think we'd like to see within this, first week of training camp, or things that we're looking forward to seeing that we hope will change?
Okay, so from a fantasy standpoint, I just want to say Tyler Eifert, I had him about the 160 mark. Gio Bernard, I have him at the 180 mark. John Ross, I have him kind of undrafted in a lot of scenarios. It just depends on how the board looks. But that's a great pickup. If you could pick up Ross as like your last, like at the end flex, if he's still around, that's a great pickup. Because I do think the touchdowns will be there. The points per game probably won't. But you never know what you'll run into. But yeah, let's get into what you were just talking about just now. What that we're on the same page with.
So I think the first thing that I want to see from my perspective, and it's kind of hard to tell because I don't know when they're going to go live with full contact. I want to see what we're going to do at this linebacker position. Like, where has Malik Jefferson's progression from his rookie year to now come? Is he going to be working with the first team? Is he going to be working in? Jermaine Pratt, what does he have to offer? Is he going to be there? Like, who's going to be our starters at the linebacker position? I also think, obviously, the Bengals were looking into somebody to pair with Geno Atkins. Is Andrew Billings going to be able to show those flashes like we've seen with Carl Lawson, where we've heard about him before we've even seen the first preseason game? Is he going to make that step in year 2? Obviously, with Ryan Glasgow coming back, the new tackle that Renell Wren, what is he going to do? Who's going to be that guy that kind of stands out for the defense is what I'm looking for. Zen, what do you think?
I want to have a little bit of input on that. If you guys are looking for Malik Jefferson to step up and be in some starting role, it would have to take a whole entire linebacker room full of injuries,
Right.
because he's just not there. What will be a big thing for me is to see Malik Jefferson in a Ravens game shadowing Lamar Jackson. Would be one thing where I like a specialty role for him where he could shadow mobile quarterbacks would be step 1. Step 2 would be like special like blitz packages and different things where he lines up like with different people and just get some snaps, man. If he can get like 200 something snaps, that would be a big up. But what I think from a camp perspective, the thing that I'm be looking at is Jermaine Pratt versus like Jordan Evans or somebody like that. Like those two, I think, because Jermaine Pratt, it would not be outside of the realm of him starting. It really wouldn't. You would have Visual, Preston Brown, and I mean, and then it's Pratt and Evans, like to me, and it's just all about who could pick it up the fastest. I think because last year was in so much turmoil, I think a lot of people are looking at Jordan Evans like he's a bum. He's still like pretty much the most athletic linebacker that we have. Like, yeah, I mean Jefferson doesn't have the hips to follow like a lot of tight ends and stuff in this league or whatever. But I do like from a sideline to sideline thing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I would be looking for Malik Jefferson, but that's why it hurts me so bad when I saw Rob Bomber. He drove all the way from Colorado to go see the Ravens game, and I said, "Man, you know what will make this game just flip upside down if they just put Malik Jefferson out there just to play the option, like just to play it with Lamar Jackson. I just think that's his specialty. It'd be like from a linebacker perspective, all of these guys were thinking so much, and it made everybody look so bad on tape because when the ball snaps, everybody's still sitting there for like 2 seconds. If you could get our linebackers not to think coming up into this year, that would be like winning to me. And to do something simplified, like, hey, you get that man. It's just like in basketball, like, hey, you get that guy. If Malik Jefferson says, hey, like, let me shadow Lamar Jackson, I don't care if he hands off the ball or not, hit him. Like that's something he could absolutely do and wreck a game. If Bud Dupree is starting in the NFL and he's able to do pretty similar things, well, Bud Dupree is a better pass rusher, but from sideline to sideline standpoint, same measurables or whatever, then there is a role for Malik Jefferson. I just don't think it would be like starting. It will be just special packages, and my expectations are not that. From a defensive line standpoint, you all know how I felt about them not drafting my boy that what's my boy that went to Buffalo. I feel like when guys get drafted, I just stop thinking about them. Come
That
on,
I'm not. I can't. I
you
can't.
know,
Find
it's
it,
who
bro.
we all wanted. It's who we had in our mocks and everything. Oh, do I gotta go to my board, bro?
Oh, you talking about number 8, right?
No, that they drafted from the kid from Houston.
Yeah, he was like a DN, right? Or
Yeah,
a D tackle. He
yeah,
had like a weird body. Ed
Ed
Oliver.
Oliver. Ed Oliver.
Yeah,
All right. The reason I was so upset about that because Ed Oliver is a game-changing impact person that all they had to do was move up a couple spots. When they got to 6, 7, and he still was on the board, they should have made a play for it right then. And I'm not saying that with the hindsight of Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams was the right pick at that pick. But I'm just saying at the time, I would have gave up something, the 4th round pick, to get up to that part. Because now look at Finley. Like he's potentially about to get cut. Like
right.
y'all understand that? Like Jake Delagala and Driscoll are outplaying Finley. You moved up to the 4th to get him. You could have traded a 4th and got up Ed Oliver, and it helped these linebackers out. It helped Geno Atkins. So the guys like Wren and all those things like that, those are good project guys, but I just don't see them ever being elite level that's going to take all this pressure off of Geno. I'm really, really excited to see Glasgow. That's somebody that was playing really, really well before he got hurt. I also want to see Lawson on the field a lot more. So I'm going to be looking at that. It's really crazy that we both really want to see the defense a lot because the offense, I said it so many times last year. If the offense is your defense, if the offense could just stay on the field, I think all of these things that we're worrying about or how people are saying that the linebacking core is so terrible, it won't be magnified and you won't feel like that if the offense can just sustain some drives. Even just a field goal, stay on the field, switch the position. But so many times, I look at the Browns game. I mean, I was watching the Browns game the other day. It was 23-0. And everybody was at home screaming at the defense. But I'm like, every time we touched the ball, it was 3 and out. Defense is gas. You know what I'm saying? So I really always paying attention to the offense, but the people in the new roles, absolutely, you hit it right on the head. Defense, I need to see who's winning some of these linebacker battles. What are the D tackles looking like early in the year? Because right now, I'm the biggest one of the biggest Bengals fans you'll ever meet. I just don't see the impact players. I just really don't. Kerry Wynn and guys like that getting big time those are the guys that's going to be getting big snaps, though.
Right.
Like, so when everybody's saying or assuming, you got to take your fandom hat off and look from a side. If Kerry Wynn played for somebody else, would you even think about him in the game plan?
No.
You wouldn't. Kerry Wynn's going to get a shitload of snaps. Like, think about that. Like, Jordan Evans is going to get a lot of snaps. We're talking about guys that haven't done anything in the league, really, getting a lot of snaps on defense.
At all. I think, like you said, I think you kind of touched on it with a couple of things. Jake Delagala has kind of came out of nowhere. I want to see what he's going to do. But the thing that everybody's worried about that we want to see is the offensive line and who those starters are going to be and how they're going to perform against our defense and what they can do. So, wrapping things up, Zim, what are you looking forward to seeing from, I guess, the offensive side of the ball?
From the offensive side of the ball, I just want to see distribution. I'm not as worried about the line as much, but I just want to see evenly distributed footballs going around and not going a whole entire game wondering why didn't somebody not get the ball. I'm not as worried about the line because the play action is going to buy that half a second that I think that Andy needs. He's got to be able to make the play quick, and if he doesn't, move, improvise. That doesn't mean scramble. The quarterbacks that kill us the most, the quarterbacks that win the most in this league are the quarterbacks that I used to hate the most, the Tony Romos and the Bens of the world. They don't run anything on script. It's super unscripted. When Dalton has his biggest moments, it's always unscripted. But that's why he doesn't have that many of those moments. If he can learn to improvise and make the play, that's what's going to take this team to the next level. Because too many times, if it's not there, he'll take the sack, and then what happens? The offensive line is trash. You know what I'm saying? You think that Aaron Rodgers, up until last year, you think Russell Wilson, these guys had a better line than us? Our fans look at our line and say, these are the worst linemen I've ever seen. But the fans of all these other teams are saying, why don't you get Andrew Luck a line? Why don't you get Russell Wilson a line? They're not that good, but they improvise.
Deshaun Watson was sacked 50 times last year. That is like 20 more sacks than our line gave up.
In Dalton, man, look, that's a whole nother thing. But what are you looking from an offensive line? Like I said, distribution, and I need to see Dalton improvise. That's how he'll win.
I mean, I know it'll be kind of tough to tell what the offensive line is looking like, but Christian Westerman, what is he looking like at the left guard position after replacing Bowling? John Miller, heard a lot about him, would like to see what he looks like.
I think he's solid.
Bobby Hart is the biggest, with this offensive line friendly scheme, are they going to be able to mask his 10 sacks that he gave up? Or is he still going to be a guy that is, allowing pressure to get to Dalton? We'll have to see.
Yeah. But the one thing as we close this thing out, Bobby Hart, right? I just want to talk about this really quick. Trent Williams is the only tackle. I talked about this. I'm going to talk about this on every show. The Bengals went after Gerald McCoy, who wanted almost $9-10 million a year. It was publicly known. Everyone knew that. The Bengals went after a guy that makes $9 or $10 million at a position that some would say we don't even need, right? Clint Boland then retires, right? You now get back $6 million all of money back in your pocket, and you already had $12 million in cap space. You made a move for Cordy Glenn in the same instance that I'm talking about this. So I'm posing this because I posted this on my Instagram earlier. And a lot of people said, the Bengals front office won't do that. The Bengals front office did do this with Cordy Glenn. Same type of deal. A guy that was disgruntled, wasn't happy with the team, came in, traded down with the pick, and then took on the salary thing. Trent Williams is the only tackle. If the Bengals want to send a message to the fans that they want to win, like really win, and then you want to see my spirit go up and me talking 9-7, 10-6, go get that guy. Because a lot of people say, well, Cordy Glenn's out there. Yeah, but you just sent a message out to us that Cordy Glenn was going to play at the guard spot. I went back on the Rams and the Cowboys. They both play with big guards that could naturally play left tackle. The reason why they're so successful, what's the guy that's next to Whitworth? God, I can't think of his name.
Saffold, yeah.
Saffold, and all these other guys, and then the other guy that they started too. These are guards that could play tackles for any other team. So the plan was always to put Cordy Glenn at guard. You're now saying, yeah, well, we gave up on that. We know that Cordy Glenn isn't that great of a left tackle, but yeah, we're going to throw him out there and then feed the fans this false hope. Like, pay attention to the messages that they're sending you. They first told you that they can now play the best line that they have available, right? With Jonah and Cordy Glenn at left guard. Now they're going to spoon feed us that, well, Cordy Glenn's played left tackle his whole career. No, this is your chance to go say, hey, give me Trent Williams. I'll take on that salary. And then they say, well, Zim, why would you take on that salary and you got to play Cordy Glenn? They don't have enough money. They do have enough money. But say you want to play that game. Cordy Glenn is this is the last year in his contract that the Bengals will be responsible for. The dead money, like they wouldn't own shit. They could let him walk next year. They could let Bobby Hart walk next year. You will walk into the next season, the 2020 season, with Trent Williams and Jonah Williams at your tackles. And that will put you in the top 5 tackles in the National Football League. And you will come back with a now 3-year Billy Price. You know what I'm saying? And your guards, you had Westerman, and you got John Miller, and you got a shitload of guards. You know what I'm saying? You don't need it. You like you could let Cordy Glenn walk, or you could play Cordy Glenn guard money since you went out and got him, and he might be grateful for it. But you got so many options, and all you had to do is give up like a third in another pick or something like that. He doesn't want to play for the Redskins. He's not going to go to training camp. He's the only starting tackle in the National Football League that the Bengals could actually go get that would do it, because no other team would give up a tackle. I just want to close the show with that because people thought I was crazy about this, but it makes so much sense. And how do you make up for the Whitworth disaster? You said before, oh, you didn't think Whitworth could go past 33, 34, whatever. Here's a guy that's 31 that's got 5-6 good years left in him. Whitworth 2.0 for less money. Come on, Bengals.
I have to agree there because you take the chance and you go and grab a guy like Trent Williams this year. If money is really an issue, which we know it really isn't if you're going to crunch the numbers, but if you really want to hang your hat on Bengals front office, if you want to hang your hat on, hey, this is going to be too expensive for us, we've already, invested a lot into it, there's always the option that you could move on from Cordy Glenn the next year and replace him with Trent Williams if you really want Jonah Williams to be your left tackle of the future. That option is still open as well.
Man, so early in his career, you could get his feet wet. I mean, the guy could play anything, really. I mean, but naturally, you don't want him to get in a bad habit. So I'll buy into Jonah at left tackle, whatever. Trent Williams is a pro, bro. Like he's played anything. I just read somebody said Ace hates Billy Price.
That's my cousin.
You know what's so crazy, dog? People think that. You probably don't know this, but the people that follow you, they think that I hate Billy Price, and they think I hate Jonah. They think I hate Dalton, and it's never that. We just always see the value of someone else that should be in that spot, or somebody that we should have drafted at that spot, and we're living with it. And y'all just
when you go from Russell Bodine to thinking that you're going to get an upgrade over Russell Bodine, and it's still Russell Bodine just from the Ohio State University, he going to have to prove it to me, bro.
He got to prove it to me, too. But, I mean, for Billy Price, just leadership alone. And in the NFL, like, center, like, if you got the leadership qualities, you don't have to take on none of the bigger, like, the big guys. Like, I mean, how often are you going to play Aaron Donald, you know what I'm saying, where somebody's gonna line up over center and like be like that crazy athletic? Like,
to be honest with you, it's not that I didn't like Billy Price. Like, I like Ohio State. I liked the pick at the time, but it was like, I didn't expect him to get drafted into the second round, and then we picked him, which was cool, but he had the injury, and then it was like we ended up having a guy, and I think it was Trey Hopkins step in and was better than them, and it was just like we could have used that pick on somebody else. Like,
But see, that's what I don't want to do is be. I don't want to say after the fact because I know Trey Hopkins is good, but at the end of the day, Trey Hopkins is not. He doesn't have the potential that I see in Billy Price. I think from an overall, not even just skill, just the overall like this is our core of our team and what it represents. Billy Price, and I hate using leadership so much because everybody else is going to use that, but it's very clear that the players see that his work ethics and everything that he brings to the table is a pure leader. And if that could be like one of the main things, like you don't have to be the best player on the team to be a leader. And Trey Hopkins is never going to be that. Trey Hopkins, though, can do a lot of things that Billy Price can't do. Trey Hopkins can absolutely go out to tackle because he has the arm length to do it. But it's a reason why he was how the Bengals acquired, but that's a whole nother conversation. Right. But I just wanted to say that, like, for anybody that's thinking that the Bengals, like, I read somebody comment saying, and this is the PR stuff that somebody like a Jeff Bush Hobson is going to put out there. Well, they're trying to restructure the deal for AJ Green and Tyler Boyd, and they got William Jackson coming up. Like, come on, shut up, cry me a river. All these teams.
Oh, don't think, guys, that I've given up on Billy Price. I just said that his first year just was not where it was at. I was just being a realist. I'm not saying Billy Price is a bust or anything. I just did not agree with his first year. Like, I expected so much more. Can you guys still hear Zim? Looks like we having some technical issues. Can you guys still hear them? Okay. It looks like I can't hear Zim. It looks like we can't hear you. It's just, yeah, everybody's saying they can just hear me. But we're at the show. We're at the end of the show anyway. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Zim, appreciate you as always, my co-host, for joining me. We'll try to do this again on Thursdays. Like he said, make sure that you guys submit to us your ideas for the show name. We have one in mind, but we want to give you guys away stuff. We want you guys to attend these things. We want you guys to comment, participate. We may even start having you guys call in once we get things, circumstances all figured out with how to get you guys on here. So stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming. The podcast will be hitting the iTunes store pretty soon. As soon as we get all we're really waiting on for is just the artwork and you guys to pick the name. So once you pick the name, we're gonna be good to go. But this is Zim and Ace Boogie. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And as usual, we'll leave you with a who day all day, every day, especially on Sunday.